Officer Brandon Walsh's Bodycam captured the scene at 2:17 p.m. on March 8, 2024. A white Ford Explorer on the shoulder of Highway 89, 15 miles south of Flagstaff, the driver's door open. A woman standing outside, visibly distressed. Inside the vehicle, a teenage girl unconscious in the passenger seat. Walsh checked for a pulse, found one, called for an ambulance immediately. The girl's breathing was shallow, her skin cold to the touch. On the floorboard, an empty prescription bottle, hydrocodone, prescribed to someone named Rebecca Hartley, not the girl's name. The woman identified herself as Rebecca Hartley, age 36, a dental hygienist from Sedona. The unconscious girl was Emma Carver, 15 years old, Rebecca's stepdaughter. Rebecca told Walsh they'd been driving back from a shopping trip in Flagstaff when Emma complained of dizziness. Then, she passed out. Rebecca pulled over and called 911. That was her story. Walsh noted several details. Rebecca's hands were shaking. She kept looking back toward the highway. Her answers came too quickly, rehearsed, and the pill bottle bothered him. It had been prescribed 2 months earlier. 30 pills, now empty. The ambulance arrived 12 minutes later. Paramedics administered Narcan. Emma's breathing stabilized slightly. They loaded her onto a stretcher and transported her to Flagstaff Medical Center. Walsh followed. Rebecca rode in the ambulance. At the hospital, doctors worked on Emma for 3 hours. They pumped her stomach, monitored her vitals, ran toxicology screens. Emma Carver survived. But the blood work revealed something Walsh hadn't expected. Hydrocodone, yes, but also benzodiazepines and alcohol, levels consistent with deliberate overdose. Not accidental, not recreational. Emma remained unconscious for 18 hours. When she finally woke, a doctor and a social worker were waiting. Walsh was there too. What Emma told them that evening would turn a medical emergency into a criminal investigation. Emma Carver lived with her father, David, and her stepmother, Rebecca Hartley, in a 3-bedroom house in Sedona. Her mother had died when Emma was 9, a car accident on I-17. David remarried 2 years later. By all accounts, the first few years were normal. Rebecca worked full-time at a dental office. David managed a sporting goods store. Emma did well in school, played volleyball, had friends. But in the fall of 2023, something changed. Emma became withdrawn. Her grades dropped. She stopped going to volleyball practice. Her friends noticed. Teachers noticed. David noticed. When he asked what was wrong, Emma said she was fine, just stressed about school. He believed her, or he wanted to. What David didn't know, Rebecca had been giving Emma pills. It started small. Rebecca offered Emma an Ambien one night when Emma said she couldn't sleep, then another, then Xanax for anxiety before a test, then Vicodin for headaches, always with the same reassurance. Just one, just to help. Everyone does it. Emma was 13 when it started. By 15, she was dependent. Rebecca controlled the supply, one pill at a time, just enough to keep Emma needing more, just enough to keep Emma quiet, because Rebecca had a secret. For 8 months, Rebecca had been stealing from the dental office where she worked. Prescription pads, medications, patient information. She'd been writing fraudulent prescriptions, filling them at pharmacies across 3 counties, selling pills online. She'd made over $40,000, and Emma had seen her do it. Emma had walked into Rebecca's home office one evening in January 2024 and found her filling out prescription forms, dozens of them, names Emma didn't recognize. Rebecca looked up, saw Emma standing in the doorway. Rebecca sat Emma down, explained that this was just temporary, that they needed the money, that Emma couldn't tell anyone, especially not her father. Emma said okay. She was scared. She was also dependent on the pills Rebecca gave her. But Emma started asking questions. Where did the pills come from? What if someone found out? What if they got in trouble? Rebecca didn't like the questions. On the morning of March 8, 2024, Rebecca told Emma they were going shopping in Flagstaff. David was at work. They left around 11:30 a.m., but Rebecca wasn't planning to go shopping. Surveillance footage from a CVS pharmacy in Flagstaff shows Rebecca entering the store at 12:43 p.m. Emma wasn't with her. Rebecca purchased a bottle of vodka and a pack of gum. She returned to the vehicle 7 minutes later. What happened next was reconstructed from Emma's later testimony and forensic evidence. Rebecca drove to a remote section of Highway 89. She pulled into a rest area, just a dirt lot with a picnic table, no other cars. She mixed vodka into a water bottle, added crushed hydrocodone and Xanax, told Emma to drink it, said it would help her relax. Emma was suspicious. She asked Rebecca what was in it. Rebecca said it was just water and a little vodka, that Emma was being dramatic, that they'd stay there until Emma calmed down. Emma drank it. Not all of it, but enough. Rebecca waited, checked her phone, waited some more. 20 minutes later, Emma's speech was slurred. She said she felt dizzy. Rebecca told her to lie back and rest. Emma did. Rebecca waited another 10 minutes. Then she drove back onto Highway 89, heading south towards Sedona. Emma was unconscious in the passenger seat. Security cameras from a gas station near mile marker 340 captured the Ford Explorer passing at 2:04 p.m. Normal speed. No signs of distress. At 2:14 p.m., Rebecca pulled onto the shoulder at mile marker 337. She opened Emma's door, then her own. She stepped out of the vehicle, composed herself, rehearsed what she'd say. At 2:16 p.m., she called 911. She reported that her stepdaughter had suddenly passed out, that she didn't know what was wrong, that she needed help immediately. Her voice was panicked, convincing. Officer Brandon Walsh arrived 1 minute later. Officer Walsh knew something was wrong before the ambulance even left. Rebecca's story didn't make sense. Emma had suddenly passed out, but the pill bottle on the floorboard suggested otherwise. Walsh photographed the bottle, the vehicle interior, the rest area's location. He noted Rebecca's behavior, the shaking hands, the rapid speech, the way she kept looking toward the highway as if checking whether anyone was watching. At the hospital, Walsh interviewed Rebecca while doctors worked on Emma. Rebecca insisted Emma must have taken the pills without her knowledge, that Emma had been struggling lately, acting out, maybe experimenting with drugs, that Rebecca had tried to help but Emma wouldn't listen. Walsh asked where the pills came from. Rebecca said they were hers, prescribed for back pain. Walsh asked why an entire bottle was missing. Rebecca said she hadn't realized Emma had taken them all. The story had gaps. Walsh called for a detective. Detective Maria Sandoval arrived at the hospital at 5:30 p.m. She reviewed Walsh's notes, examined the photographs, and requested a full toxicology workup on Emma. Then she started running background checks. Rebecca Hartley had no criminal record. She'd worked at Desert Dental Associates for 6 years. Clean history, no red flags. But Sandoval pulled Rebecca's prescription records. Over the past 8 months, Rebecca had filled prescriptions for hydrocodone, Xanax, Ambien, and Adderall at 7 different pharmacies. Quantities that didn't match her stated medical history. Refill dates that overlapped. Sandoval contacted the Arizona Board of Pharmacy. They'd flagged Rebecca's account 3 weeks earlier for suspicious activity. An investigation was pending. Then Emma woke up. At 9:47 p.m. on March 8th, Emma regained consciousness. A social worker named Patricia Chen was waiting. So was Detective Sandoval. They explained that Emma was safe, that no one was in trouble, that they just needed to understand what had happened. Emma was groggy, confused, but she started talking. She told them about the pills Rebecca had been giving her, about walking into the office and seeing the prescription forms, about Rebecca telling her to keep quiet, about the rest area and the water bottle, and feeling dizzy. Patricia Chen asked Emma if she'd tried to hurt herself. Emma said no. She said Rebecca had given her the drink, that Rebecca had told her to drink it. Sandoval recorded the interview, every word. At 11:15 p.m., Sandoval obtained a warrant to search Rebecca's home and vehicle. A forensic team processed the Ford Explorer first. They found the empty prescription bottle Walsh had photographed. They also found the water bottle with vodka residue. Lab tests confirmed traces of hydrocodone, alprazolam, and ethanol. Exactly what was in Emma's bloodstream. The search of Rebecca's home office produced prescription pads from Desert Dental Associates, 43 fraudulent. Prescriptions written in the names of patients Rebecca had treated. Digital records showing online sales of controlled substances. Bank deposits totaling $4,200 over 8 months. And a journal, handwritten, dated entries from January through March 2024. In it, Rebecca detailed her fear that Emma would tell someone, that David would find out, that she'd lose everything. The final entry, dated March 7, 2024, one day before the overdose, read, "Emma is becoming a problem. I need to fix this." Investigators interviewed David Carver. He'd had no idea about the pills, the prescriptions, or the money. He'd noticed Emma's withdrawal, but attributed it to teenage stress. He hadn't suspected Rebecca of anything. They interviewed Emma's friends. Several confirmed that Emma had seemed off for months. One friend, Alexis Morrison, said Emma had mentioned taking pills to sleep, but never said where they came from. They interviewed Rebecca's co-workers at Desert Dental Associates. A dental assistant named Carla Ruiz said prescription pads had been going missing for months. The office had reported it to their supplier, but hadn't filed a police report. They'd assumed it was a clerical error. Investigators pulled Rebecca's phone records. On the morning of March 8th, she'd searched Google for "How long does hydrocodone overdose take?" and "Can Xanax and alcohol be fatal?" The searches were time-stamped 10:17 a.m., 1 hour and 13 minutes before she and Emma left for Flagstaff. The evidence was overwhelming. Sandoval had the prescriptions, the journal, the search history, Emma's testimony, and the toxicology results. On March 9th, 2024, less than 24 hours after Officer Walsh pulled up to that white Ford Explorer, she contacted the Coconino County Attorney's Office. They reviewed the case file. The prosecutor, Elena Vasquez, saw it immediately. Attempted murder. Rebecca had planned it, researched it, and executed it. The only reason Emma survived was timing. Walsh had arrived minutes after Rebecca called 911, not the 10 or 15 minutes Rebecca had likely anticipated. A warrant was issued for Rebecca Hartley's arrest. On March 10th at 6:40 a.m., officers arrived at Rebecca's home in Sedona. David had taken Emma to stay with his sister. Rebecca was alone. She answered the door in a bathrobe, coffee mug in hand. She was arrested without incident. Detectives read her rights. She said nothing. At the Coconino County Jail, she requested a lawyer immediately. Her attorney, Michael Brennan, argued that the case was circumstantial, that Emma was a troubled teenager who'd overdosed and was now blaming her stepmother, that the prescriptions were Rebecca's legitimate medication, that the journal entries reflected stress, not intent. But Brennan couldn't explain the Google searches. He couldn't explain the water bottle with the drug cocktail. He couldn't explain why Rebecca had driven Emma to a remote rest area before the overdose. The Arizona Board of Pharmacy completed its investigation. Rebecca had written over 200 fraudulent prescriptions in 8 months. She'd distributed controlled substances across state lines. Federal charges were pending. Emma continued to recover. She was placed in temporary custody with her aunt while the investigation concluded. Therapists worked with her to address the dependency Rebecca had created. Emma's prognosis was cautiously optimistic. David filed for divorce. The proceedings were expedited given the criminal charges. Rebecca remained in custody. Bail was set at $500,000. She couldn't post it. In May 2024, forensic accountants traced Rebecca's online sales. She'd used encrypted messaging apps and cryptocurrency to sell pills to buyers in 6 states. The total estimated value of diverted medication exceeded $70,000. By June, additional charges were filed: trafficking in controlled substances, endangering the welfare of a child, fraud, and forgery. The attempted murder charge remained. Rebecca's defense strategy shifted. Brennan began negotiating a plea deal. Rebecca Ann Hartley was 36 years old. She'd worked as a dental hygienist for 14 years. No prior criminal history. By all outward appearances, she was stable, employed, and responsible. But the investigation revealed a pattern of escalating criminal behavior. The prescription fraud had started small, 1 or 2 fake scripts to supplement income, then dozens, then hundreds. She'd recruited no one, worked alone, and covered her tracks meticulously until Emma saw her. On July 12, 2024, Rebecca appeared in Coconino County Superior Court. She'd been in custody for 4 months. Her attorney had negotiated a plea agreement. Rebecca pled guilty to attempted manslaughter, trafficking in controlled substances, child endangerment, and fraud. In exchange, the prosecution dropped the attempted murder charge, and federal trafficking charges were deferred pending completion of state sentencing. The plea hearing lasted 30 minutes. The judge, Honorable Thomas McKenna, asked Rebecca if she understood the charges and the consequences. She said yes. He asked if anyone had coerced her into pleading guilty. She said no. Emma Carver was present in the courtroom with her father and aunt. Rebecca looked at her once. Emma looked away. The prosecution presented a sentencing recommendation, 18 years in prison, with no possibility of parole for at least 12. Rebecca's attorney argued for leniency. He cited her clean record, her mental health struggles, her cooperation with investigators. He submitted letters from family members describing Rebecca as kind and caring. The judge reviewed the evidence, the journal entries, the Google searches, the water bottle, Emma's testimony. On August 3, 2024, Judge McKenna issued his sentence: 20 years in the Arizona Department of Corrections, eligible for parole after 15. Rebecca showed no emotion. She was remanded immediately. David Carver read a victim impact statement. He described Emma's struggle to recover, the nightmares, the therapy sessions, the fear that Rebecca would somehow come back. He said his daughter should never have had to fear the person who was supposed to protect her. Emma did not make a statement. She was 15. She'd survived an attempted murder by the woman who'd raised her since age 11. Rebecca Hartley is currently incarcerated at the Arizona State Prison Complex in Perryville. She will be eligible for parole in 2039. She is 36 years old now. She will be 51 then. Emma Carver, now 16, lives with her father in a different city. She completed treatment for opioid dependency in late 2024. She's back in school. She plays volleyball again. Her therapist says she's resilient but will carry the trauma for life. David Carver filed a civil lawsuit against Desert Dental Associates for negligent oversight that allowed Rebecca access to prescription pads for 8 months. The case settled out of court for an undisclosed amount. The settlement funds were placed in a trust for Emma's future medical and educational expenses. Arizona's Board of Pharmacy revised its prescription monitoring protocols following Rebecca's case. Pharmacies are now required to flag patients filling controlled substances at multiple locations within a 60-day window. The policy is called Emma's Law. Officer Brandon Walsh received a commendation from the Flagstaff Police Department for his response to the scene. His Bodycam footage was used in training sessions on recognizing signs of child endangerment during routine calls. Emma doesn't talk to reporters. She doesn't want to be known for what Rebecca did to her. She wants to be known for volleyball, for her grades, for her friends. Her father says she's still learning to trust people again. Rebecca Hartley has not granted any interviews. Her attorney says she expresses remorse, but has not elaborated publicly. She has not appealed her sentence. Emma Carver was 15 years old when her stepmother tried to kill her. She drank what she was told to drink. She trusted the person who was supposed to protect her. She survived because Officer Walsh arrived 3 minutes early.